Next to last meeting of 2001 of the North Little Rock City Council order. Ms. Whitby, would you please call the roll?
Gibson.
Present.
Yielding.
Here.
Dobbins.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Barry.
Here.
Vestal.
Here.
Height.
Here.
And Witcher.
Present.
A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Can I ask that we stand for the prayer to be led by Alderman Vestal, followed by the pledge by Alderman Barry?
Father, we thank Thee for allowing us to live in a society such as we do, and we thank You for Your gift of Your Son, whose birth we're celebrate this month. And Father, we would hope that You would watch over all those who overseas, protecting those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And Father, we would thank You for Your guidance to give in this council, so that we may vote for Your will and the will of those people that elected us. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move for the adoption of both sets of minutes.
There has been some discussion, and I certainly don't have a problem. Ms. Whitby indicated, that she just had a chance to pass out the minutes for the special meeting just tonight, and I know Alderman Barry had indicated he had a chance to review them. We can do, certainly whatever the will of the council is. I don't have a problem with adopting them next council meeting, or
It's fine with me.
so I'll take that then as a motion to adopt only the minutes of the previous regular meeting, and that pending review of council and no later than the next council meeting will address the adoption of the minutes of the special meeting. Is there a second to the motion to adopt the regular minutes?
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right. Now we're into communications. Do I have a blanket motion?
Move accepting file 1 through 8, please.
Second. Motion made and seconded. We accept file 1 through 8. Any council member want to pull anyone?
No, Mayor, I don't want to pull one. I want to make an additional one to communications. House Representative Francis.
All right, why don't we do this? Let me go ahead and get these, and then I'll address that. We've got a motion made and seconded that we approve 1 through 8. On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding. Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right, now, Alderman.
Yes, Mayor, I just want to make additional communications. Would, without objection, have it read by the appropriate time.
Do you have a copy of that, Ms. Whitby? If you would have, Ms. Whitby, a copy of this. I know I just saw that in my stack of correspondence. I have not had a chance to read it. I know we have a close of business rule for communication.
I move that we allow this communication to be read.
Second.
I'll just do this without objection. We'll go ahead and indicate that it be received and read. With that, Ms. Whitby.
This is a letter dated December 6, 2001 to the Honorable Mayor Patrick Henry Hayes. Dear Mayor Hayes, thank you for your recent letter regarding the general improvement funds which were provided for by Act 1691 during the 2001 legislative session. As you are aware, these funds were appropriated for the purpose of infrastructure or improvement projects within the city of North Little Rock. I would like to express to you my sincere appreciation for your cooperation throughout this process and for agreeing to serve as the fiscal agent for these monies. As a state representative in North Little Rock, I worked tirelessly to assist the city and the district in which I serve in obtaining this much-needed funding. Although my original request was for $960,000 in funding was not fulfilled, I was more than pleased to receive the $350,000 in approved funding during an extremely difficult budgeting year. I know that the funds will be a great resource to the city. I would be remiss, however, if I failed to address the current uncertainty and potential shortfall of the funding as a direct result of the recent budget cuts and struggling economy. Considering this potential shortfall, it has become necessary to closely examine and prioritize our needs. As you can understand, representing the people in my district must be my top priority. I feel it is my responsibility to serve as a good steward for this money. With the potential of cutbacks, I must reevaluate the needs of my district and will recommend the funding of much-needed improvement projects within my district. The City of North Little Rock is expected to receive the funding in 7 quarterly installments through June 30, 2002. I look forward to working with the city on these projects. Please do not hesitate to contact me if I can be of assistance. Sincerely, Tracy Still, State Representative, and a copy was given to each alderman.
Motion we already made the motion to accept and file?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have?
Well,
I
you
think we just ruled it to be read. So
Okay.
do I have a motion to accept and file?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
No, I was going to also say that the company had is a couple of items. One, if Linda has a concept, she'll pass them out to you and each alderman. Then outline a couple of needs. We have a couple of people in the audience at the proper appropriate time. I have them speak to those needs, and then we plan on filing legislation for adoption at the next council.
Is that where Representative Steele wants to spend it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go ahead and call for a vote on the accepting and filing letter. Ms. Whitley, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Gibson,
This is on the...
Accepting and filing communication.
Vote yes.
Yielding,
Yes.
Dobbins,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
and Witcher.
Yes.
Why don't we go ahead and address that since we've been talking about it, Alderman Dobbins. I know you wanted to discuss the possibility of a voice vote, so you know, while we're at the beginning of this council meeting, we've already talked about it, we might as well just go ahead and let you address the council.
Mayor, we have 2 people in the audience right now. Of course, William, and of course, one representing families are special, and the other for advocates or relatives of kids. And I want them to come to the microphone to speak to this briefly. But in essence here, we have an opportunity to use some of those funds to do some good service to our community. And the amounts of, as you see in your packet, for advocates and relatives, amount of, I believe, 13.7.
13.4, I think.
13.4. And other package you will see for families of special, 6,210. So if we could take this.
And that'll be fine. Let me just ask our city attorney to address something first. I know I communicated, you received a copy of the letter from Mr. Leathers in response to my request with regard to these funds. Have you seen a copy of that letter?
No, I have not. My office may have. I'm not sure, but I have not seen it.
All right. I just wanted to get some comments on, because my recollection, and I'm not sure how accurate that recollection was, had to do with capital projects in terms of that fund. But I did get an opinion from Mr. Leathers, and I do have that letter. I thought I'd sent you a copy of it, so that was the only question that I was going to seek your advice on whether expenditures of this type fall within the definitional aspects of that letter. And right now you can't answer that, right?
That's correct.
Okay, Alderman Dobbins.
Yes, we have Brown. Come and speak to advocates.
Yes, my name is Letha Rounds. I am the founder of Advocate and Relatives for Kids. Began in 1994. And what that means mostly is about grandparents that are raising their grandchildren. And now we have so many other relatives that are raising their relatives' children. And we have been given the use of a house, 628 land in North Little Rock, to use for our support meetings and many other things we can do to help these, especially, grandparents to have respite care and many other things. The house is in good standing, but it does need some work on it. This is the first time since I started this in 1994 that we've had space of our own. We've been from kitchen to fire stations to you name it. But I think, I don't know how many of you are aware of how many grandparents are raising grandchildren. In Arkansas, it's something like 50,000. I don't have statistics of North Little Rock, but we do have a lot. And what I do is help grandparents work the system to find out ways that they can get support for these children if needed. And we have our regular support group to let them know that they are not the only ones, they are not alone.
Bill?
My name is Bill Barling. I'm on Letha's board, and so I have a vested interest in Advocates and Relatives for Kids, because every kid that's cared for by a grandparent does not have to go to foster care. And today we're finding that a lot of children have gotten lost in our state foster care system. Now, I also am the director of Families Are Special, which is a local Arkansas licensed adoption agency, a private, non-sectarian adoption agency. And our purpose is to help Arkansas families to adopt. A lot of people, when they think of adoption, they think of, well, only wealthy people can adopt, something like $25,000, maybe $18,000 for a international adoption. But a lot of people don't know that it doesn't take a lot of money to adopt. And that's what our agency is about, helping Arkansas families to adopt. Since we deliberately keep our fees for service as low as possible, then we need additional funds to develop our programs that are non-fee based, to expand our recruitment, and to make some improvements to our computer system and some maintenance things in the building where we are at. So that's the proposals in brief.
Thank you. And
Oh, you got the floor.
go ahead. Now, say thank you both,
Thank you.
both groups here, and I think they're a very worthwhile cause. As you know, the funding, you had totaled together some $20,000. Have everyone, I know this may, some people may feel a little more comfortable about this, but just in general, I would ask at the appropriate time, show support for us to vote on this, and I plan on bringing legislation to the council at next meeting for distribution of these funds.
Alderman Thomas?
I'm just going to ask Mr. Barring a question. Do you feel that all these projects are eligible for this type of funding? See, that's what I was concerned about, since the city attorney hasn't looked at it. As far as you know, what you're asking for would fall in the category for this act, that these monies.
Alderman, are you addressing me?
Yes.
That's my understanding. My understanding was the funds were only available for capital improvements or for purchases of equipment. And that's what this is about. Everything in here is capital improvements or purchase of equipment.
And you'd need to know something before our next council meeting.
Are you in a hurry?
Well, we are in a bit of a hurry at Advocates and Relatives for Kids, because the building that we have use of has been vacant for some time. We've had some problems with the gas, and those are going to be corrected, but we don't have a central heating system. And that was one area that we were concerned about. There's also a area of the roof in the back that needs repair immediately.
And it's similar to the funding for, I think it's still similar funding for that. So I think it's worthwhile purpose.
Senior Citizens Center? Or Genesee CDC?
No, the adult recreation center.
I'm not. Oh, well, no, we didn't use any of these. Did we use it? I don't think we used any of these funds, did we?
Completely different set of funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have
I
mistaken.
have a question then, I guess. And it goes, I'm gonna treat this similar if it's like a CDBG project for capital improvements at this point, because a couple of things. How long is the lease? on on your property, and and how long is the lease on the other piece of property?
Presently, the lease on each piece of property is 5 years.
Okay.
There's no trouble with expanding that
Well-
longer if that's your pleasure.
One of the things we ran into, and this happened with the Conley Park, is that we couldn't use those funds with anything less than a 5-year lease. So that's to keep you from going over and using funds to fix up something real nice and then it goes away very quickly. So I think if from my standpoint, a copy of those leases to the city attorney's office would be that would probably help in that. My only concern is that this is twice in a row that I've gotten here and received the projects that night. And while and I will vote for these projects, assuming that the city attorney says that they meet the capital needs. I only ask that Mr. Dobbins that y'all give us a little more notice. This is unfair to the council.
I agree with you, and that was due to some miscommunication about getting this information out. So certainly we try to be as time and give everybody an opportunity.
Let me make this suggestion, if I could, that I will, if I hear you making a motion that the council by voice vote approve the expenditures of these two items, subject to the city attorney's opinion that they fit within the guidelines of the state, number one, and number two, that we have some form of agreement with both of these agencies that will reflect what the expenditures are, so that if we should have to audit those expenditures, that we'll be able to track those expenditures. So with those two conditions, would that be your voice vote?
Yes, that's part of the normal course of doing business with the city as far as setting up a contract with the entities, as well as ensuring that we are audit proof and ensuring that we're also doing something for people. Not a problem.
Is there a second to that
I'm going
motion?
to second that, and I'm going to file a request that no checks or copies of checks be issued until after this passes legislation at our next city council.
So there's three conditions, and one is that that you give us your opinion that, first of all, you've got to get an itemization of the proposed expenditures that fall within these two classifications. Bill, are you understanding what we're saying? We need an itemization of what your proposed expenditures are with regard
Yes.
to these two amounts.
Yes, I gave that to Mr. Boyles last week, and
Right.
it was my understanding it would be distributed before now, but I can have that within.
Right, and
24 hours.
work with our city attorney on that so that he can come up with some representation based on that line item or those items, that's your intent, so that if we need to follow and trace those funds, that we'll have the ability to do that. And he's going to put together some little agreement that'll reflect, what you're representing that you'll do, so that we can in fact do that. And secondly, he's going to give us his opinion after he has that these expenditures fall within the ambit of that parameter of what the state has allocated on behalf of North Little Rock. And third, as you heard Alderman Gibson, until the next council meeting, which will be the 27th, if I'm not mistaken.
26.
26th. Okay, the 26th. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but
When be the day after Christmas? Be the Wednesday.
okay, the 26th then. The 26th, that we'll actually not be able to cut any checks until the 27th. All right. So Alderman Dobbins' voice vote. Is there any? That motion is made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the voice vote?
Mayor, one more question. All right, Mr. Barling, is your agency a United Fund agency? Are y'all funded through United Fund?
United Way?
United Way. Yes.
United Way.
Sorry.
No, we're not a United Way agency. We have been a part of the federal United Way system, but United Way has not opened their doors for new agencies in the last several years. And early on, we tried to get a part, but you have to be 5 years old, and so it's like, no, we're not.
Mayor, I guess the only other comment I would have is, as Mr. Gibson indicated, this is the second time he's been popped on us. And I think the last time I asked for a list of what he had in mind, and while I will support this tonight, I'm not going to do this again until we've got a list. Okay? So you'll know, what the next vote will be.
I have a question. Finance, how much money is in that fund after we put this out from the check that we got? Okay. 189. So there's 90,000. Of course, that money is city except for this county.
Correct.
Well, and I guess, let's get this issue out of the way, because I want to make a comment about it, but I don't want it to cloud.
All right, Alderman Yielding had the floor.
I'm sorry.
Any other discussion?
I relinquish.
Any other discussion?
Not on this.
The motion is that we voice vote indicating our approval with subsequent legislation to follow, that will be conditioned on, the city attorneys reviewing these expenditures as well as, drafting an agreement and an itemization of those items that these funds will be utilized to expend, and that no checks will be issued until after this council acts on the actual legislation that will be drafted and adopted at the next council meeting. On the motion.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, Alderman Gibson.
Separate issue, but to the degree, I will file a letter with Representative Steele to Mara. Many of us have visited the health department in the last 6 months, and if you've not been down there lately, I encourage you to do so. Obviously, the health department's having to use part of the community center right now to give shots and to run a WIC program. For 3 legislative sessions, we've gone to the legislature and asked for funds to repair that health department. And 3 times something else has become a priority, and everything becomes a priority. I will ask the mayor to look at part of the capital improvement funds and ask Representative Steele to look at part of his funds to see if we can't find the money to do the health department, to finish up the addition that we need to it and remodel the interior of the existing.
We're spending, and I'm sure the
we're doing
council members
the
aware,
roof.
We're spending a couple, almost 150.
Yeah, we're doing the roof and we're doing the air conditioning, but we have done nothing to the inside of the building.
How much money do we need down there?
It would probably, to do the addition they need, it's probably going to cost another couple $100,000. I can tell you the air conditioning came in at $60,000 over our best bet, because once we got into it, we found out that we had a 1960-something unit that...
They don't even make anymore.
That's right.
Well, one thing I know that and I certainly appreciate Alderman Gibson's interest, we are spending somewhere in excess, I think, of $150,000, I know, with the roof.
Over
and,
200.
And so, as we balance the needs, they are, at least as we went down and reviewed the open house with Dean Edwards, they are, they're very comfortably accommodated at this point. Now, there's no doubt that they could be more comfortably accommodated, but I'm not sure in terms of the wants, at least at this point, that I'm convinced that we need to do some
Well,
more.
I invite you to go to the other one and see the needs there, and don't go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Go about 9:15 in the morning, and you can see how many people are crammed into a small space. And if we do nothing else, is that perhaps we need to ask Representative Steele to use some of his money to allow us to update the existing building on the inside. We're going to have a wonderful air conditioning system, and heating, and we're going to have a wonderful roof. But we still have an interior that hasn't changed much since it was built.
Well, and I'm just saying that while the need may be there, there is another year.
No.
But it's up to this council, obviously. Any other comments?
No, I just want to say I appreciate everyone's patience with this. This was rather quickly done. I was, of course, as Mayor already alluded to, out of town last weekend. We had some missing of people and getting the proper, we thought we had the proper documentation to the right source, and obviously that was missed. So what we're doing is trying to compile that list and ensure that it falls within the guidelines of what the monies can be used for. So for those 2 projects have hit the mark, and we're going to continue with that.
Now, let me indicate, that the Representative Steele's letter dated December the 6th, and it is noted it was received in my office today. However, I do have a memo dated December the 5th from Robert Boyles relating to this topic, and I did not have a chance to review it until today. I don't know when it was received by my office, and I guess I'm still a little curious as why I got this from Robert Boyles. Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. That's why I'm have a nice little talk with my representative. We'll make sure we get everything in right order here.
I can't quite figure out why Mr. Boyles got involved in this.
I do believe he was doing an estimation for the roof on the Argenta train station, but as far as the other information, of course, for our other services, that seems to be a mystery. And,
well, this is just a little beyond planning as to the nature of this memo, so I'm a little confused myself.
No, it's really not, but that's okay.
Can I
Pardon?
we want to give.
All right, we've adopted by voice vote. Now let me.
One question.
You got. I'm sorry.
I just want to just so I can clear up in my mind. Representative Steele donated or appropriated $350,000 to the city, of which $90,000 went to the Boys Club and CDC. Is that what it was?
Argenta CDC.
CDC, right. And now we're going to spend another $20,000 of that remaining $260, right?
Well, actually, we don't have, but I think we got one payment of 180. 180.
180.
We're supposed to get the remainder in successive payments, but right now, in terms of receipts,
but
we
it'll
only have
total
180.
260 though. Less,
We hope.
less
We
the
hope.
90, less the 20. So all right. Now, is this monies that are being appropriated to the city? Do we have any control over where it goes, or
Yeah,
do we have
total
to to Representative Steele?
Total control.
We do.
Yes, the city council does.
Just curious.
I mean, we have total control as to where it goes. But, as I've said before, Representative Steele was the one that entreed these funds, and I, for one, am certainly going to be very sensitive to what his desires are, subject, obviously, to the remainder of this council. But in terms of who has the say-so, the money was appropriated to North Little Rock. We are the city council of North Little Rock, so this council, a majority of it, has total control as to where these funds are allocated.
And then the monies that are allocated are to fall within the infrastructure and capital improvements as far as.
And I'll share that letter that I received. I wrote the letter several weeks ago, and I got a response from the Department of Finance Administration indicating the parameters of what these funds were eligible for, and that's why I wanted to share that with Mr. Susky. I thought I had, and to ensure that that we do what's proper, essentially.
Well, I was just concerned that we're opening up the floodgates here by entertaining requests for funds at every city council meeting.
Well, I think what you heard is Alderman Witcher made a statement, and I in part would have to second that. I think we were all trying to be responsive to Representative Steele, at least responsive to his interest, which is not something that is mandated on this council, but certainly in the spirit of cooperation, I think we're trying to be receptive. But I too would echo what Alderman Witcher said, and that is, that this is probably the last time, that I'm going to be supportive of a voice vote. I think legislation needs to be filed and considered by the council in a duly appropriate manner. So, I think we're all a little concerned about the second time this happened. We were concerned a little bit the first time, and yet I still say that I think we all are very appreciative of Representative Steele's work and want to try to take his desires into consideration as strongly as we can.
Oh, yeah.
But this council makes that decision.
Right.
Alderman Gibson?
I think there's two other things we need to realize. There are two sets of funds out there, the governor's funds and the legislature's funds. Each have different parameters. The city of North Little Rock will receive funds over the 2 years of $1.2 million for the senior center, and the YMCA will receive $500,000 for capital improvements at the North Little Rock Y that Ms. Salmon passed, and the funds will be distributed over a period of 3 or 4 checks over a 2-year period. This is what is unusual about this portion is that rarely do these funds come through the City Council. They're spelled out in definite needs at the legislature, and the legislature determines where they go, that they meet the parameters, and the checks are sent directly from the legislature to that entity.
As in the case of the Senior Citizen Center to us.
Okay. Yeah.
But this was, and I know at least the first time in my history in this chair, first time that I've been ever a part of receiving a categorical sum of money that referred to projects in North Little Rock. So that's the difference that we've had.
Well, if it's your first time, I know it's my first time.
Well, that's
And we appreciate Representative
Steele has some.
forging the first time way.
Oh, yeah.
We certainly will work with that.
He is his history maker.
Absolutely.
All right.
With that, let me ask. I know we've got 2 public hearings, one on the budget and one on redistricting ward boundaries. But I've got Jim McKenzie, who is the executive director of MetroPlan, is here to help us go through a piece of legislation. And I'd like, if I don't have an objection, to have Ms. Whitby call R01-183. We'll try to deal with that, and then we'll go to those 2 public hearings. Mr. McKenzie, Ms. Whitby, would you please call that?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution to endorse participation in the Ozone Flex program of the Environmental Protection Agency.
Second.
Is there a second? Mr. McKenzie, you want to just take a minute or two and give a little entree and then see if any council member has any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me offer season's greetings to the members of the council. This is a issue of clean air. As most of you know, the Central Arkansas region is technically in non-attainment for the 8-hour ozone standard under the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. The only reason we have not been declared non-attainment is that the implementation plan this spring was declared unconstitutional, and EPA is rewriting that as we speak. Region 6 of the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the region that we're in, has pioneered a program called the Ozone Flex Program for areas that are on the verge of going non-attainment but have not yet been declared non-attainment. And what they do is allow the community to work out its own solution to clean up its air in a voluntary fashion. And when the feds say voluntary, it means you can have state or local laws or ordinances. It's just not federal regulatory action. But in a way that we can devise our own solution and begin cleaning up our own air without the infringement of federal regulatory action that a non-attainment designation would imply. The Ozone Flex program is a 2-step process. The first is a letter of commitment that says to EPA, we're going to try to do this. That letter of commitment is due December 31st of this year, and we've got a 1-year period to hammer out a memorandum of agreement about exactly how we're going to do that. So by December 31st of 2002 or thereabouts, then we need to have a solution in hand. If we're successful in doing that and EPA approves it, and we subsequently go out of attainment, then they're willing to hold in abeyance the designation of non-attainment for up to 5 years. And there are a couple other perks for participating in the process. So I think it's a very beneficial process. It gives the community, the public sector, and the private sector an opportunity to work through this issue on our own terms and come up with the solutions that we deem best from the EPA standpoint. It generally results in cleaner air quicker than the federal regulatory process. So in dealing with the federal government, it's a rare win-win kind of situation.
Does anybody have any questions? This may very well require us to adopt some legislation that would help clean up the air. So I don't want to lead anybody down a road that says that this is something that may not require some action, but I know that I have spoken with several members of, I think, our Chamber of Commerce, certainly the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce, and they're very concerned about the adverse impact of ozone as it may relate to business recruitment. So, this is I think what we feel is an opportunity to get ahead of the game, but yet it may require us. No, I think it probably will require us at some time in the future to make some recommendations in a legislative way that would lead us in the direction of helping clean up our air. Alderman?
And not only that, you're saying there would be a cost involved in it, and there may be a 5-year period.
There will definitely be a cost at some place. We're a growing metropolitan area, and as we continue to grow, air pollution is one of the problems that we're going to have to solve. So we neither the public sector or the private sector can continue to do things the way we've done them in the past and expect a different result. What will happen in the next 12 months is the State Department of Environmental Quality is doing an emissions inventory to try to pinpoint where the exact problems are so that we can target solutions in the most efficient way that will have the least cost both on the private sector and the public sector.
Alderman Hike?
Do you have any idea where any of the problems are at present? I mean, do you kind of get an idea which direction you're going?
Yeah, there are two, this gets into ozone chemistry, but there are two precursor gases, volatile organic compounds and nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a result of combustion. A lot of smokestacks, big coal plants in the Ohio River Valley, for example, put out a lot of nitrous oxide, but so do automobiles. And in this area, probably the on-road mobile sources are going to be a large part of our problem in the transportation arena. Pine trees actually put out a lot of volatile organic compounds, and so we have a biogenic source of pollutants that we can't really do anything about that we're going to have to work around. But I think it's important, and EPA underscores this as well as the Department of Environmental Quality, that it's critical to know exactly where the problem is so that we can target the solution rather than taking a shotgun approach at it.
So are we catching up with California?
We've got a long way to go to get to California. Actually, our neighbors down in Houston have passed Los Angeles as the most polluted city in the country. So that's a good example of a problem that wasn't caught early and got out of hand.
Unless we get a strong wind from the southwest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second before us. Any other discussion on the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. You tell Beverly that I sent you home a little earlier than you otherwise might have been.
Thank you, Mayor. You'll appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now let's go back to the public hearing. The first one indicated, although we're going to open the floor for any discussion or questions on the budget secondly, although it's not listed. But let me open the public hearing on the redistricting of ward boundaries, and Alderman Yielding has taken the lead on this. I'll let you make a few comments, Alderman, and then we'll open up the microphone.
Okay, is my mic on now? Okay. After meeting, and I might let Barron Cross, Mr. Finnegan, make some comments, but after public comment at the last meeting, and after meeting with the Barron Cross group afterwards, we were able to do some things which I think everybody agreed with. Bring Dark Hollow back into Ward 1, which we never wanted to lose it, and then keep the Barron Cross neighborhood, I say more intact, actually expand on it some and take it all the way up to 23rd Street. We actually found some people who lived south of 13th Street that were actually in Ward 2. And so it made a lot of sense to go ahead and take that census tract in and then bring it down in the railroad yards the way we did. It's the boundaries are very definitive for the wards, and it won't be hard for people to understand what ward they do live in and who represents them. And that's all I had to say.
With that, the microphone's open. Anyone want to comment on the proposed ward boundaries as explained by Alderman Yielding?
I'm Jack Finnegan, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I represent Barron Cross Neighborhood Association. At the last council meeting, we voiced a strong opposition to the proposed alternatives that were before you at this time. The new Alternative 8 is one that we in Bering Cross can live with, because it takes care of our main underlying goal, keeping our neighborhood intact and together. We would like to thank Alderman Yielding for the work that he did in finding a solution that was acceptable to us, and to you, the mayor and the council, for hearing us. Thank you.
And we appreciate all the citizens of Bering Cross. You've got a terrific group of people, and are very supportive of the community, and we appreciate the partnership. Anyone else? The microphone's still open. Seeing none, I will adjourn the public hearing. It's my intent, I'll tell you what, I'll recess the public hearing until the next council meeting. It's my intent to read it and then call it for a vote at the next council meeting. All right, now, let me go ahead and open the public hearing on the 2002 budget. Each of you have received that. It didn't make the agenda, but I'm going to offer the microphone as well as any comments from any council members. It's a budget that, by and large, reflects pretty much of a status quo, at least with regard to the operational aspects of it. We have an excess of about $170,000. Is that right? Stephanie, if you want to come to the microphone, just in case anybody has any questions or I make any misstatements. We have an excess of about $170,000.
$150,000, Mayor.
$150,000. Well, 20 here, 20 there. $150,000, and yet we believe, and we're going to be presenting at the next council meeting a legislation to reconcile this year's budget. Parks is certainly the leader in terms of a deficiency, and yet even after we reconcile this year's budget, we think we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 million in the city's general fund.
Yes,
is that
sir.
still correct? Our general rule of thumb is feeling that we need to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million, give or take. So that means that if that projection holds true, we might very well have $500,000 that we could direct toward employee raises. There's several things that are out there that we've got a little bit of concern about, in fact, a lot of concern, although our city attorney, Mr. Susky, tells me that the last hearing that was held about 10 days ago on the use tax lawsuit seemed to raise more questions about which way the judge might be leaning, so we really don't know. We may, we have a little bit more cause for optimism, I guess is the only way I could say it, although we don't know when she's going to rule. We anticipate that ruling may occur any day now. If that ruling is adverse and an escrow is ordered, it could cost the city up to $700,000 a year. We are moving forward with our power sale agreement. I signed the contract Friday after the council acted on Thursday, and then Ms. Whitby endorsed it on Monday of the following week, and we transmitted that contract. Duke is working with vigor to ensure that any risk that we have with regard to transmission charges beginning in July will not inure to the cost of the city, and we'll have a better feel on whether the electric department, as a result of that reduced power cost, may have some ability to assist the city anymore should this council decide to do that with regard to the reduced cost of power. Now, I want to again recall that although the spread was about $1 million on an annual basis, there were some charges that weren't reflected, and I think the negotiating committee indicated that the true spread was probably $700,000, but that was on an annual basis, and that cost will not go into effect until July the 1st. So we really have not a whole lot of benefit. And the thing that I've been saying, and I don't know how this council feels, but the one thing that I feel good about is that this community, in my mind at least, won't look to raises with regard to our electric rate. I think that's something that a year ago I know I was extremely concerned about, and you look at California, West Coast and the East Coast with double, triple, and quadruple electric bills. I think this community is indeed fortunate that we were able to negotiate and secure with the approval of this council a reduction, although it was slight, but to me it will certainly ensure that there will be no increases for the next 4 years. I certainly don't, in 4 to 5 years, I certainly don't intend to support any. So I wanted to kind of paint a bit of the picture of where we see the budget. There are some recommendations with regard to expenditures in capital improvements, the largest of which is a $1 million repaving program. We also recommended $500,000 in sidewalks. Those are some of the larger items. As I think the council knows, we do have some flexibility with regard to the capital program, although the largest expenditure in the capital program is for the bond repayment. There is some flexibility there, and that is mainly due to the fact that that the monies are divided in half, and of the operations half of that goes to support the sanitation, which we again underline we were very proud to do as a result of the sales tax, and that is our citizens don't pay anything for what I think is exceptional sanitation services. So we're making progress. We're not as challenged as some communities, but our projections with regard to the sales tax for 2002 is actually $200,000 less than what we projected this year, which is about what we're going hopefully to receive. We'll know we're on track. We're about $1.1 million, $1.2 million short, if I'm not mistaken, of being $12 million for this year. Is that not correct?
We're about $200,000 short as of November.
Right. So
hopefully we'll receive the $12 million.
Yeah. We'll have to get somewhere around $1.2 million our next check before we'll balance out at $12 million. So we're not projecting any increase in sales tax, and currently there's no additional transfer from the electric department. With the $500,000 over the general fund, and along with $150,000 that we have, that's sort of the general picture of where we are in terms of the budget. I don't know, what have you got a slideshow that we've got?
I think you just presented it for me, but we can.
Okay.
We can.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just hit the high points then.
Okay. The 2002 proposed budget. Sources of revenue: 22.6% from the electric department, 18.7% from county sales tax, 20.4% city sales tax, 7.1% from bonds, 7.7% from property tax, 6.4% from state turnback, 6.8% from Parks hamburger tax, 2.4% from Parks user fees, and 7.9% from other sources. The 2002 revenue budget compared to 2001. 2002 shows 23% from the electric department compared to 22% from 2001. County sales tax remained constant at 19%. City sales tax 20% in 2002, and they were 22% for 2001. Bonds increased 7% in 2002, and they were 6% in 2001. Property tax 8% in 2002, 9% in 2001. The state turnback decreased from 7% in 2001 to 6% in 2002. Hamburger tax remained constant at 7%, and Parks user fees are 2% for both years. Other sources are 8% for 2002 compared to 6% for 2001. 2002 expenditures by department: 48.1% of the total expenditures are for public safety, 25.5% for public works, 9.5% for parks, 7.2% for administration, and 9.7% for other expenditures. 2002 expenditures compared to 2001: public safety 48.1% in 2002 versus 48.5% in 2001. Public Works, 25.5 for 2002, 26.1 for 2001. Parks, 9.5 for 2002 and 10.4 for 2001. Administration is 7.2 for 2002 and 7.1 for 2001. And other expenditures are 9.7 for 2002 and 7.9 for 2001. Budget expenditures by function, 63% of the total budget goes to personal services, 16% to maintenance and operations, and 21% for other expenditures. Expenditures by function, 2002 compared to 2001, 62.8% for personal services in 2002 compared to 63.6% in 2001. Maintenance and operations, 16% in 2002 compared to 16.9% in 2001. And other expenditures were 21.2% for 2002 compared to 19.5% for 2001. There's no increase in the three major revenue sources for 2002, the electric department transfer, county sales tax, or city sales tax. The only new revenue source for 2002 is the contribution from water for franchise fees, and the only major increase in the source of revenue is from fines.
Let me mention something as we talk about the water franchise fee. Let me remind the council that currently I think we're slated to March or April to lose billing from water and wastewater, and so that's going to cause us to have a reduced need in utilities accounting, and we're going to try to work through the transition in those positions and make every effort not to lose any of our employees, and hope to be able to reassign those folks. But there's going to be a major loss of income when that function moves over to the new Central Arkansas water system, as wastewater is also voted to utilize their billing structure to send out their bills. So I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. Okay, go on, Stephanie. Is there anything?
No, that concludes my presentation.
All right, let me just mention one other thing, and then open it for any questions from either me or Stephanie. We're going to try to work on this month with personnel the recommendation for the salary schedule, as well as to hopefully get a better feel for what the court may do, and move toward trying to make a recommendation with regard to any salary increases sometime, perhaps the last of December, but it could be into January. And I might remind the council that this is not an unusual practice, that we have every opportunity to refer back to do whatever the council selects. But it will be we're going to work hard to try to make a recommendation by the end of the year, but it may very well be in January before we're able to make that recommendation due to the factors that I just mentioned. With that, let me open the floor for questions from any member of the council, and then I'll open the floor for public hearing. It's my intent to also adjourn this public hearing till the next council meeting. I might remind the council that we don't have to adopt a budget before the first of the year. I'd say more often than not we do, but we're mandated to adopt a budget by February 1st, the last of January. With that, the floor is open. Alderman?
I guess one of the things, I know our employees have been very, very patient, and I know we put them off. We had a study made. We was going to have something, I think, in October. So I do hope that you'll really do every effort to meet some of their needs, because the other companies have already given raises. They've done it, like I guess Energy and others, they give raises. So we got to consider that now as we look at it too.
All right, go ahead.
And there's one other question. I know you like this one, but if we do save, if we do have a savings from with Duke over Energy, is there a chance we might reduce our rate to our customers?
I mean, this council can do whatever it wants to do. I think that it would be, it would be unrealistic to assume that, in a revenue. How much is our revenue, Stephanie, out of the electric department? 70 million, 70 something million. I think it's in that neighborhood.
77 is our estimated
77 million.
I think, Alderman, to be honest with you, if we're projecting at tops a $700,000 savings on our power, that any reduction would be so negligible that the citizens wouldn't even notice it. But I mean, the answer to that is this council, can do that, with a majority vote. But I wouldn't want, at least from my position, to lead anyone to believe that any savings, because it's so minimal, would translate to a rate decrease. If that was the case, it would probably be so small that no one would really notice it. Alderman Thomas? Alderman Gibson.
The one thing we need to remember, while there's $700 and something thousand difference between the Duke and the energy proposal, there's not $700 and something thousand between what we're currently paying and the new Duke rate. It's probably in the neighborhood of 400,000, give or take some.
Right.
So we're dealing with basically 0.5% of our total revenue. Less than that much. I mean, and so but the number's not 700; it's 400 or less.
It's about it's about half
because if you'll recall, Energy's bid was 3.9 and Duke was 3.795, or essentially 1 mil. That spread was $1 million, but that spread was even reduced because of a metering charge with regard to the hydro, and that dropped it down to somewhere in the neighborhood of the mid $700,000 range. But if you look at the exact savings, you're looking at 3.85, which is what we're currently paying, versus 3.795, or roughly $0.5 and so that translates on an annual basis, excluding the transmission issue, somewhere around $500,000, and you take away 100 to 150, so you're really looking at net savings of $300 to $500,000 a year, and that is so minimal that I don't think there could be a meaningful rate reduction. So I certainly would not support a rate reduction, but I can tell you that through the exceptional ability of the negotiating committee, through the market, I think this community is exceptionally lucky and well placed and well timed in the environment that we're living in, that we aren't looking at a very good likelihood of a rate increase, knowing some of my sister cities around the country and what they've gone through. So I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking at least what I would support based on that minimal savings. But I will not support a rate increase. I can certainly say that. Alderman Thomas?
I guess I know Alderman Gibson may be right, but I've been told that it may be more, and nobody knows, so we can forget that. But
it's somewhere in there, and we won't know. Whatever it is, we'll get 5 months of it at best this year. Is that correct? I guess, Ms. Woodard, is that the rate goes into effect July 1, but we make that payment in August.
Well, it has to be if we make it on a monthly basis. So
yeah, but we will make 5 payments this year.
Correct.
We'll make 7 to Energy this year and 5 to Duke. So we're going to get 5/12 of whatever savings it is, and it could be 400,000.
Well, and the other
but
thing,
the next year's the others coming.
The next year it'll come back up.
Right.
And
Alderman Yielding.
Can I get from the electric department just exactly what these figures are instead of everybody's addition and mine included? Just exactly what these figures are.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I want to know exactly what this. I want to know. I want from the electric department what, from Joe Gertz or whoever can figure it out, exactly the difference. So we'll quit talking about what may or may not be and everything else. Exactly what the difference is between the 385 and the 3795. Exactly what we're going to make. That's what I want.
Well, the difficulty, we can talk to you about that. The difficulty is it has some basis on how much electricity we sell.
That's exactly right, but they can figure that in. They know how to do that.
You can't can't really, you can make some guesstimates on how much electricity you're going to sell. You
Well,
know.
they can
Let's
do
use
that
the number
too.
that's in the budget. Let's use the numbers that are in the budget. That's the easiest thing to do. It says that we're going to buy $40,435,871. We're going to get credit for $5,600, $5,006,000 from the hydro.
See, and that's the difficulty.
Well, that's
of it.
fine, but can I just let the electric
Sure.
department figure it out and
They
and
can
get it?
give you that based on assumptions,
Okay.
but the two, you know, probably not the two. The one biggest assumption that we really have, we've been all over the page on, and that is the credit that we're going to get from the hydro. You know, that thing has gone from a low of $3 million to a high of $10 million in the 13 years I've been here.
No, well, obviously that's just a joke.
Well, it's also a pretty big spread too.
Yeah, it sure is.
So it's extremely difficult, you know, to really know where that spread's going to come in, and as well as, you know, we've been getting 3.85 from the hydro. Now we're going to get 3.795 from the hydro. So, you know, that makes it difficult. We can make some assumptions, and based on those assumptions, we can put the percentages to them and give you some exact numbers.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that you understand there's a great flexibility in what those numbers may end up in actuality.
Well, sure, because if we sell more electricity, it's going to be more.
You know, and if it rains tomorrow, we're going to get wet.
Let's don't start what ifs
outside.
again. That's what we were doing last time. Start what ifs. Okay. The only thing I know is we had the other one, we'd been paying more.
If we have another ice storm, we sell no electricity.
That's right. Or we might make money on FEMA. Who knows?
You never can tell.
Oh, God.
We find a print.
All right, let's
we
go to the
work
next thing.
downstairs. Any other comments or questions from the council? All right, the microphone's open. Anyone want to comment on the 2002 budget? You will have a chance next council meeting. The city clerk has a copy of it. I'm sure our friends in the media will help us out. But any comments either now?
I need one more question too.
All right.
How much are we going to get from our the licensing of the cats?
Oh, from what?
Licensing of the cats.
Oh, cats.
Mr. Grace, you got a guesstimate on that? Over the microphone.
It's not in here.
Yes, he is.
Is it in here?
Oh, no, I thought you said he's not. I'm sorry.
You got any fee revenue estimation on cat licenses? Okay, sorry.
Okay.
It's going to be closer to zero.
All right, I'm going to recess this public hearing until 7:05 next council meeting. Please, we want to hear your concerns, priorities. Particularly, I'm asking the community to take a look at those capital projects. That is where we do have some flexibility, and look at our recommendations, because we'd very much like some input from the community with regard to the capital side of the budget. With that, can we go to old business?
First item is ordinance 0189, Mayor Hayes, Alderman Yielding, Witcher, and Height.
Please read it.
This is an ordinance redistricting the ward boundaries following the 2000 census. Second reading.
Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment, please. In section 1, where it reads Exhibit A, please change it to read Exhibit A, designated as Alternative 8, dated 11/27/01.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Whitby?
Gibson, on the amendment?
Yeah, well, I was going to let you take that from Alderman Witcher, and then you can call on Robert.
Okay.
He's handing you something.
I'll make Kim get it. Thank you.
Okay, now, that's on the amendment.
Gibson,
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Berry?
Yes.
Pistol?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Now, it's my intent to hold it and then call it for a vote at the next council meeting.
Okay.
Next item?
Next item is ordinance 0190, Alderman Witcher.
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance amending Northern Rock Municipal Code Section 10-96 in order to provide for a lifetime animal license for sterilized animal with a microchip. This is the second reading.
Oh, yeah, I got a copy of
Maybe suspend the rules and place it on the third reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to suspend, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Berry?
Yes.
Pistol?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Northern Rock Municipal Code Section 10-96 in order to provide for a lifetime animal license for sterilized animal with a microchip. third and final reading.
Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment, please.
All right, you have the floor.
Okay, in section 1, paragraph C, it reads, any person requiring to obtain a dog or cat license pursuant to section 10-96A and B has the option in lieu of said annual license to, where it says purchase, obtain a lifetime dog or cat license if their dog or cat is sterilized. Be eligible for a lifetime license, the owner must purchase an implant an approved microchip from a qualified veterinarian, the cost of a lifetime license for a sterilized dog or cat shall be free, it shall be the burden of the owner to provide that a lifetime license has been obtained, period. So
Let me make a
there
suggestion.
are 3 changes where it says purchase, it'll be obtained. In the second line, where there's blank and the amount, it'll be free. And then the last purchase, obtained. And
Let me make a suggestion. You put 0 in there.
0? Okay.
0.
That'll work.
All right. That's a motion to amend. Is there a second to that motion to amend?
I'll second that. You answer my question.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? On the motion to, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So, so y'all will understand, I don't think we ever intended this to be a revenue producer. This gives us another tool to deal with sterilization of our animals. The goal is to control the animal population. The microchips are expensive. I don't, Billy, what are they now? 27, 25 to 35, depending upon who does them. Based upon the normal life of an animal from 4 to 8 years, that microchip is, would hit right in that area. And it'll give us a couple tools. One, if an animal is picked up and they're not carrying tags, we can check them for a microchip. If they have a microchip, they're registered on a national basis, and we can trace them back to their owner, which is something that we can't do right now. And then particularly for those individuals who had cats that were concerned about licensing, Mr. Height and I have talked extensively about this. It'll give another tool to those folks.
On the motion to amend.
Gibson?
Yes.
Gilding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
You have a motion?
So moved.
I have one other question.
Motion made and seconded to adopt as amended. Alderman Gibson.
How do you handle yearly shots?
That's regulated by state law. And we've had this discussion with Mr. Susky, so since that is a state mandate, we don't have to address it. It is still a requirement.
But if we don't,
we need to somehow. It isn't a problem until someone doesn't do it, and then it becomes a problem. And I'd like to address it before it becomes a problem. There should be some method to yearly update that, whether by some method, and because you go in and get a tag in the animal's ear once when it's a year old, and that there's no you license dog, you give dogs shots for a very specific reason, and I want us to be able to have some method to have where that everybody that has one of those tags, and there could be a few thousand of them within a year or two, is there some method to make sure that they get their shots on a timely basis, and we have some way of keeping up with it?
Well, I think Mr. Grace could probably answer this question, but I think a responsible pet owner is going to get his animal, is going to get his pet.
A responsible driver drives down North Hills Boulevard at 30 miles an hour.
I understand that, but I'm saying, this.
I want to give them an opportunity to be real responsible.
Well, the people that are not getting their pets vaccinated on a yearly basis, this ordinance is not going to force them to do it.
Let's hear from Mr. Grace.
Well, we have a city ordinance that mirrors that state statutes that you were talking about. And we have so many people who get the two confused. They go get a rabies vaccination, and the vet supplies them with a rabies tag, and they think that's their city license. I think it would be beneficial if we had it written in this ordinance they're required to get that that rabies vaccination every year. I think it would be helpful on the enforcement end of it.
Tell you what, do you have any objection to that? Mr. Susky, would you do a little drafting, and without objection, we'll hold that motion to adopt as amended until Mr. Susky proposes another amendment for us. Let's go on to new business.
Resolution 01-181, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution expressing the willingness of the City of North Little Rock to utilize federal aid monies for the following city projects: Smoky Lane widening, McCain Boulevard to 43rd Street, appropriating the amount of $5,000.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson. Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Mayor, we got what we didn't get. We didn't get enough time to put in the money.
Tell you what, having
Having voted on the prevailing side, R01-181.
For reconsideration.
Second.
on the motion for reconsideration.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Mr. Susky, could you help me remember anytime we do this money stuff that we have a sentence in there that says it will be appropriated from blank so that we won't forget?
Well, it's in there, Mayor.
Oh,
In
is it?
section 4.
It's in there, it just was left blank.
It's on
Oh.
my notes.
Normally, I would remind you of that, but I'm drafting a animal license amendment.
Animal license got there.
We'll blame Billy Graves.
Mayor,
All right,
does this make-
well, excuse me then, continue that good practice and we'll see if we can keep you out of the animal business while we forget what to put in the blank.
Does this money come from the bond issue? We have money set aside in the bond issue. We have no money set aside in the bond issue for Smoky Lane. We have it set aside in the capital improvement account.
Right.
So that's where it needs to come from. It needs to come from the 2001 capital improvement account.
Do we have money left in this year's sales tax capital improvement? You want to come to the microphone?
These funds normally come from the street program, and I think we will have funds left because we're in the process of adjusting for receivables for grants.
Well, now, what I'm asking is, do we have money out of the capital, our 2001 capital improvement account that we can draw this out of?
Yes.
Okay, so the Alderman Gibson's amendment is that the money be appropriated from the 2001 capital
Improvement account,
capital improvement account.
because there's a line item in there for Smoky.
Okay, second.
All right. Motion made and seconded that we amend this legislation by inserting capital improvement account on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes. Move for adoption as amended.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item,
Resolution 01-182, Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
A resolution appropriating the amount of $9,342.62 for extending the design of phase, was that 4?
4.
Streetscape enhancements along Main Street.
a Roman.
Have cold. I'm not with it.
Oh, excuse me.
I thought it was a blonde moment.
Oh, yeah, that was it. Phase 4, streetscape enhancements along Main Street from 6th Street to 7th Street.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion?
Yeah, does this extend up in front of our barn that we're going to build up there?
No,
And go that far?
it goes this way.
No, I thought it was
No,
going
it goes from 6th to 7th Street.
Oh, okay,
this way.
excuse me.
This
That's a
way.
different
You-
phase.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong Roman numeral there, Alderman.
It's a different phase.
Yeah, I know.
Olin, you're right. It goes up from the barn.
Goes in past the barn.
Past the
Yeah, we're
barn.
hoping it'll go past the barn.
Yeah.
And we've got some more that we'd like to take it all the way to the viaduct.
Right.
In Ward 2.
Yeah,
Yes, and Ward
amen.
2.
On the motion,
Gibson.
He's thinking.
He's having a senior moment. Ms. Whitby.
Very senior.
He said 1,000.
Gibson votes yes, and I want to I got a question to ask when we get through.
all right.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
No.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
7-1 passes.
What's your question?
In the first whereas, it says beginning at 5th Street and going north. The title says 6th Street to 7th Street, which would be going north. That's probably just a small typo.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, we're going to consider that a typo, and it means
It's done to 5th, but when are we going to do 5th to 6th? That's what I thought. So this is 6 to 7. Good enough. It can handle like that.
all right. Next item. I'm sorry.
I want to make one comment on this. Once we hit 7th Street, 7th Street is a major street. Just as a point, I know there's some designs out there, but it would be nice if you could circle that on around 7th Street. And as we go to the viaduct in one direction, also make 7th Street look a lot nicer because it is a portal to this city.
I agree.
Yeah.
Great use for word funds.
Work two things. Great use for it.
Next item. Next item we've already adopted.
Resolution 01184, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution directing that the animal shelter budget be amended by depositing the amount of $10,880 collected in accordance with ordinance number 7215.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Gilding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item, Resolution 01185, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
Public hearing on 815 Northeast Street. Anybody here want to talk to us about 815 Northeast Street? Microphone's open. Seeing no one, I'll adjourn the public hearing on the motion. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made, seconded. On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Gilding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 01186, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
This is 1002 East 2nd Street. Anyone here that would care to address the council? The public hearing is now being called about 1002 East 2nd Street. Please state your name and microphone's open.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Michael Robinson. I'm the owner of that property on 2nd Street. And I realize in the past, it's a property that I inherited from my mother. And I realize it has not been properly attended to and it has gone into disrepair. I would like an opportunity to get it back into presentable manner as it should be.
Mr. Grace, can you come to the microphone, please?
Grace, Sykes.
Mr.
Sykes.
Sykes. Grace. Looking at Billy and thinking,
Think about dogs.
Mr. Sipes, I tell you what, another one of those blonde moments, eh, Alderman?
More like a senior moment.
I only said that once, Mayor.
I see. Sipes, Mr. Sipes, I'm sorry, would you want to tell us a little bit about this property and what efforts have been made to work with the owner?
If I'm not mistaken, he lives out of state, and we've made attempts to get a hold of him. The house is in bad shape. It's sitting right on the edge of Riverfront Drive. It needs to come down, but of course, if he wants to work on it, take immediate action, we'll work with it.
Tell you what, I'm going to hold this. What was your name again, sir?
Mike Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, I'm going to hold this. If you can sit down with our Code Enforcement Director, Mr. Sipes, also known as Mr. Grace, and work out something that you feel, he feels, and you feel is reasonable, then I'll hold this, and pending his report to me at the next council meeting, hold it pending any kind of report based on what y'all may work out.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Who?
Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson? Alderman Thomas would like to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
I was going to say, certainly we need to keep all the people we can. How long would you think it'd take you to fix it up there? And I'm willing certainly to give you the time to.
Mr. Thomas, to really do it as it should be, it's going to be, the spring or the summer to get plumbing, electricity, things like that improved in there and get it up to standards.
But you are ready,
Yes,
willing
sir.
to start working on it?
Right. It's more to it than just putting on a coat of paint. That's a quick cosmetic, something that could be done to make it more presentable on the outside. but there are some other things that need to be done to it. The property's been burglarized a few times, and, people kind of had their way with the premises, so it needs some work.
And do you live here in the city, or you live outside?
I am back here now.
And so we would be able to work on it?
Yes, sir.
All right, Alderman, just a second, sir. Alderman Yielding, do you have a question?
And you can secure this property and cut the grass and clean it. I mean, has that been done since these pictures were taken?
Should have been done since they've been taken.
Mr.
I got
Sipes?
somebody that's doing that now.
I tell you what, why don't we do this? Mr. Sipes will work with you in trying to come up with, a stage plan of progress. One of the things the council's gotten into in the past is it's and we are and will continue to be. We don't like to tear homes down, but at the same time, we want to make sure that whoever we work with, meet some kind of minimal schedule in terms of continuing to show good faith toward trying to repair their property. So with Mr. Sipes and you, Mr. Robinson, I'm sure you can reach something that we can set certain benchmarks that you feel you can meet, and we'll know progress is being made, because we very much want to work with you.
Thank you, sir.
Get the drawers off the floor.
Mayor, would you read, we were going to have
push your collar.
Alderman Thomas to reach over and fix your collar for you.
Push
Your
your
collar
collar
was
on the right.
there. Okay, now.
Get them both out there?
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all taking care of my appearance.
We want you to look nice.
I know it, and I appreciate it. Next item,
Resolution.
I'm going to hold that one now.
Okay, Resolution 01-187, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
Rogers.
4305 Rogers. Anybody here? I'm going to declare a public hearing on 4305 Rogers. Is anyone here that would care to speak with regard to that piece of property? None appearing. I shall adjourn the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 01-188, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
That is with regard to 2801 Lincoln. 2801 Lincoln, I'll open a public hearing for 2801 Lincoln. Is anyone here that would care to speak with regard to that property? Hearing none, I'll adjourn that public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 01-189, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appropriating $143,105 from the general fund for replacement of the chiller at the North Little Rock Health Center.
I have an amendment somewhere along the way. I
All
move
right,
for
let's move for
adoption.
adoption and then move for adoption.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. What's your amendment?
There's a fund this money was set to come out of. Was it it wasn't a general fund.
Stephanie?
That money was set aside in the bond issue, so it should come from the 2000 series,
2001 series.
2001 series short-term financing account.
That's your amendment.
Yes.
Second. Motion made, seconded that we amend that. And Mr. Susky really helped me remember about these appropriation language so that we can work with finance and try to get this done in advance or be prepared with our amendments if we could. Thank you very much, Alderman. On the motion to amend?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Now do I have a motion to adopt
So
as
moved.
amended? Second. All right. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 01-190, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an easement to Entergy in order to give Entergy access to the city's Faulkner Lake substation.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Pass.
7 to 1. It passes.
Let's go to ordinances.
Ordinance 01-91, Mayor Hayes.
Please read it.
This is an ordinance adopting a budget for the 2002 fiscal year for the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
I'm going to hold it and now, again, reinforce my desire to call a public hearing on that for the next council meeting, 7:05. Next item.
Ordinance 0192, Mayor Hayes.
Please read it.
This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 6610 and 7326, screening ordinances, in order to change the size of an expansion of an existing business that are required before screening ordinance requirements are enforced.
I've got the Planning Commission is going to conduct a public hearing on that this month and make a recommendation to this council, and I don't intend to go forward until we have that recommendation in front of us. With that, I'll hold that item.
Next item is ordinance 0193, Mayor Hayes, Alderman Dobbins, and Thomas.
I think we all want that call.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance establishing a municipal improvement district. First reading.
Would like to suspend the rules and place it on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance establishing a municipal improvement district. Second reading.
I'd like to suspend the rules and place it on third and final reading.
Mayor,
Oh.
I'd recommend against this, we need to have a public hearing on this, and I think it would probably be best to have a motion to set one next council meeting, 26th.
Could we do that or take it on to the third reading?
Sure. Sure, we can take it to third reading.
And I second that.
Council for the Improvement District recommends we hold it to 2 and wait for 3.
How many times have we read it?
Twice.
Twice.
All right.
I'll hold it then, and
All right, let me just ask about, there's one blank in there that I found before Alderman Gibson did. And that says, in the section 1, it says municipal improvement district number.
If we don't know what number is, we have to figure out what the last number was that we were
All right, well,
So
don't
the city clerk, I will.
Me and Alderman Gibson don't want you to let us get by this next time.
We'll have an amendment.
Okay. All right. With that, and advice of council, and we appreciate all John Thurman. John, is doing the legal work for this, and we also want to underline our appreciation to John. Fred Glover is not here; he's about to retire, but their leadership in the merger of the North Little Rock water system, and while well, let me just get this out of the way, and then I'd like to make another comment. John and Fred. Without them, I don't think this could be done, and I don't think enough people realize that through the work of John Thurman and Fred Glover and the members of the North Little Rock Water Commission, that this community, as of this date, could probably claim to have saved somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $7 million over what was originally proposed in terms of Little Rock rate increase on us that began several years ago. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years ago. So I want to publicly thank John that you're here for all your leadership and help in making that about. The citizens of this community certainly will benefit from what you've done as well as others for many, many years to come. And I think overall, I know overall, this entire Central Arkansas community, by the merger of those two systems, will have water at reasonable rates for many years in the future. So let me just tell you, we appreciate it. Thank you for all you've done.